We're always told that history is written by the victors, but often it isn't written at all. It is whispered, it is forgotten in the quiet corners of a room, or buried beneath the snow of a winter-long past. Right now we will explore the quiet, unsettled corners of the American past in this relaxing History for Sleep documentary, crafted as boring history to help you fall asleep fast while drifting through the cobwebs of unsolved mysteries. In this historical sleep story for adults, we will walk the muddy, unpaved streets of 1799 New York, stand in the silent, shimmering heat of an Arizona canyon, sit in the stifling, dusty parlors of Victorian New England, and wander the frozen hills of West Virginia. We will uncover stories told slowly, quietly, and without urgency. Before we begin, let's make a promise to each other. I'll tell you these quiet tales, slow and steady, without sudden peaks of tension or dramatic twists. There is no need to keep track of every detail, no need to remember the dates or names. You're free to let your mind wander, even drift off as we move through these stories. This is History for Sleep, a slow, calming descent into the past. The four tales we will explore tonight are about forgotten corners of America's history. We'll travel back to the winter of 1799 in New York City, to a dusty canyon in Arizona in 1882, to the heat of a stifling house in Massachusetts in 1892, and finally we'll climb the hills of West Virginia in 1897 to uncover a chilling tale from a cold grave. But we won't be in a hurry. These stories are slow like the rhythms of the night. Allow them to unfold as you lie back, breathing deeply. So, let's begin. But first, I invite you to settle in. Find a comfortable spot, perhaps even turn down the lights a little. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw relax. If you're ready for a good night's sleep, you've come to the right place. We are not detectives tonight, we are simply observers, floating through the fog of history, watching, listening, and letting the moments slip by. With each passing story, let the stillness of the past fill the space around you. Feel the warmth of your blanket, the soft sound of your breath. Let's walk into the cool shadows of the year 1799 together. Imagine for a moment a New York City that is nothing like the sprawling metropolis we know today. The towering buildings, the bright lights, the bustling streets, none of it exists yet. This is December of 1799. The city is small, cramped, and made of brick and wood. The streets are muddy, the roads a mix of cobblestone and dirt, slick with ice in the cold winter air. There are no shiny storefronts, no skyscrapers, just simple functional buildings scattered across a growing city. We are standing near what is today the intersection of Green and Spring Streets in Soho. But back then this area was known as Lispenard Meadow. It was an open, marshy expanse on the edge of the city, quiet and far removed from the center of town. Can you feel the cool, damp air as you stand there looking across the empty expanse of the meadow? The ground is soft, the trees sparse, their branches swaying slightly in the wind. And nestled within this landscape is a simple wooden well, its purpose to provide water to the growing city. The well is part of a larger plan to bring water to New York, a city that like so many others of its time, was thirsty. The Manhattan Company, authorized that very year to dig wells and provide clean water to the inhabitants, is busy at work, laying hollowed-out logs in the ground, forming a crude but effective water system. The well itself is a simple structure, unremarkable, but it holds a secret, a dark moment in time that will remain unresolved. It is December 22nd, 1799, and a young woman named Elma Sands steps out of her boarding house at 208 Greenwich Street. Picture the scene. The snow is falling gently around her as she closes the door behind her. She pulls her muff tight around her neck, hoping to keep the cold at bay. The wind from the harbor is sharp, cutting through the streets, but she walks on, heading towards the well. The distance between her house and the well is not far, just half a mile. But in the quiet of the night, that half mile feels endless. Her footsteps are muffled by the snow, and the world around her is still, except for the soft crunch of her boots against the snow. As Elma walks, the night seems to swallow her up. The light from the gas lamps flickers, casting long shadows across the street. The city, so close yet so far, feels isolated in this moment. She disappears into the night, and then there is silence. For days there is no sign of Elma, no word, no trace. Then, on January 2nd, 1800, something is found near the well. A muff, a handkerchief. These small, ordinary objects are all that remain. The well is dragged and the body of Elma Sands is pulled from the water. Her death has a peculiar quietness to it, as though she had slipped into a place where time no longer existed. Now, this is where the story shifts, not because of the brutality of the crime, but because of how the legal system begins to unfold. This case becomes the first recorded murder trial in American legal history. Imagine the courtrooms back then, the scent of damp wood in the air, the rustling of wool coats, the slow, deliberate pace of the proceedings. This is not a dramatic affair, but one that crawls forward step by step with little sense of urgency. Levi Weeks, a carpenter who knew Elma, is accused of her murder. The trial itself is slow, almost mechanical in its process. Aaron Burr, a man famous for his political rivalries, stands alongside Alexander Hamilton, also a known figure in American history, as defense attorneys. They speak not of the tragedy but of facts. The sleighs that passed by, the candle Elma held, the timing of the evening. Everything is dissected with precision, with little room for emotion. The jury deliberates, the minutes ticking by as slowly as the burning candles in the courtroom. And then the verdict, not guilty. The case is dismissed. Levi Weeks walks free, and the well, the quiet well, remains. If you were to stand at 129 Spring Street today, you could still see the brick foundation of that well, buried beneath a modern store. The space is still there, unchanged, while the city rushes around it. The mystery has been lost to time. What really happened that night? Did the snow cover the tracks too quickly? Was the silence of the meadow the only witness? Perhaps the answer will never be known. The well remains, a silent sentinel, holding the truth deep within its dark depths. but the city moves on, and we too move forward as time slips past us like the snow falling on the ground. Now let's travel far from New York, far from the cold, snowy streets of the city. We are now in the Arizona territory. The air here is dry, the heat rising from the ground in waves. The smell of sagebrush fills the air, and the silence is profound. This is a different kind of stillness, one that stretches across the desert with only the faint sound of wind rustling through the dry grass to break the quiet. We're in the summer of 1882. It's a hot, dry July day, and Johnny Ringo, a name that has echoed through the lore of the American West, is found dead. But this is no typical Western story. There is no dramatic gunfight. There is no showdown at high noon. Instead, the scene is oddly calm. A teamster driving his wagon through a remote valley hears the creak of his wheels against the rocks. As he looks up, he sees something unexpected, a body sitting beneath a tree, seemingly at rest. Johnny Ringo is slumped against the trunk, his boots removed. His undershirt, torn, is wrapped around his feet. His coat is nowhere to be seen. And strangely, his watch is ticking in his pocket. The body looks almost peaceful, as though Ringo had simply taken a seat in the shade, perhaps to rest, but something is amiss. The coroner's report notes a bullet hole, a revolver, and knife cuts on his boots. But the details, though simple, don't quite fit the picture. I want you to imagine the scene, the heat of the desert pressing down on you. The ground beneath your feet is a hard, dry bed of rocks and cactus. And yet Johnny Ringo, a man known for his toughness, was barefoot in this harsh terrain. The nearest ranch is just a quarter-mile away, a short distance, but it feels like an eternity in the blistering midday sun. Why would he remove his boots in such a place? The mystery begins to deepen, and yet there is no immediate answer. Some say it was suicide. The coroner's report suggests as much, but others find this explanation unsatisfactory. Why was there no sign of powder burns? Why did Ringo appear so calm, so at peace, when the world around him was so unforgiving? The heat of the valley looms, the mountains in the distance standing tall and indifferent. They have seen many men come and go, but their shadows offer no answers. Perhaps it is simply a case of a man lost in despair, wandering the desert until he found his final resting place beneath that tree. Or perhaps there is more to the story, someone else in the canyon, a shadow in the distance, a single shot that cracked the silence, and then nothing. Only the wind returning to the valley, sweeping away the traces of the past. And so, the mystery of Johnny Ringo remains unsolved. It's not about the gunfight, but about the solitude of the desert, the isolation that seeps into the bones, a man alone under a tree with the mountains looking on, the sun setting, the shadows stretching across the land until there is only the night. Let us move now to the cool, damp air of New England. The year is 1892 and we stand in Fall River, Massachusetts. It's August 4th and the sun is high in the sky, casting long shadows across the street. But there is no relief from the heat inside the house at 92 2nd Street. The house is a boxy structure built in the Greek Revival style. Its exterior is unremarkable, painted in dull drab colors. It sits too close to the road, almost as if it is trying to shrink away from the world around it. Come inside with me and let us step through the door together. The heat hits you immediately as we enter the house. The windows are closed tightly to keep the dust from the road outside, but this only traps the heavy air inside. The smell of stale wood and dust hangs in the stagnant space. The rooms are small and the floorboards creak beneath our feet. This is the home of Lizzie Borden, her father Andrew, her stepmother Abby, and their maid Bridget. The house is not large, and its layout is simple. There are no hallways, no wide corridors. To move from one room to another, you must pass directly through each room. The house is a tight, intimate space where every footstep is heard by everyone. Every door opening or closing is felt in the next room. Now let us walk through the house slowly, as if we were there that morning. It is just another ordinary day, and the mundane tasks of daily life fill the hours. Lizzie is at home ironing handkerchiefs in the parlor. Bridget is outside washing the windows. The rhythmic sound of the water in the pail, slosh, scrub, slosh, scrub, fills the air. It is the sound of summer, the sound of a quiet, uneventful morning. Andrew has left for the bank. Abby is inside, moving through the house, likely preparing for the afternoon. Everything is calm. Everything is ordinary. There is nothing to suggest that this day will be anything other than routine. But then the silence is broken, not by a scream, but by a discovery. Andrew Borden is found on the sofa, slumped over in an unnatural way. His face is twisted and his body is lifeless. Abby Borden is found upstairs in the guest room. She too has met a violent end, her body lying in the midst of the bedclothes. But look away from the crime for a moment. Let us focus on the house itself. The house becomes a character in this story. It is a space of confinement, of tight corners and narrow paths. Every room is connected. The air is thick with the heat, the stillness, and the sounds of life just before everything is shattered. When the police arrive, they move carefully through the rooms. The front door is locked, the side door bolted, the cellar door secure. There is no way in or out without being noticed. The house is a sealed box, and within that box, the murders have taken place. It is as though the walls themselves are holding the secret, pressing in on those who are left behind. The investigation that follows is as slow and methodical as the rest of the day. The police question Lizzie, the maid, and anyone else who may have been nearby, but there are no answers. Lizzie's testimony is odd. She is calm, almost too calm, for someone whose father and stepmother have just been brutally murdered in their own home. The investigation drags on and the trial follows. The layout of the house becomes central to the trial. The prosecution argues that no one could have entered or left the house without being seen. The defense argues otherwise. They suggest that it is possible for someone to have slipped into the house while Bridget was outside, vomiting in the heat. Perhaps it is even possible for someone to have entered and exited unnoticed, hidden in the tight spaces of the house. The trial itself is long and tedious. The jury walks through the house. They feel the tightness of the rooms, the lack of privacy. They hear the creaking of the floorboards beneath their feet. They understand the suffocating atmosphere of the house. But despite all of this, they return a verdict of not guilty. Lizzie Borden is acquitted. She will spend the rest of her life in Fall River in another house, but forever estranged from her community. The mystery, however, remains. It isn't just about the crime, it's about the impossibility of the crime. How could something so violent occur in such a confined, sealed space without leaving a trace? How could someone have entered or left the house unnoticed? These questions hang in the air unresolved, like the dust motes that float in the sunlight. If you visit 92 2nd Street today, you can stay in the room where Abby Borden fell. You can sit on the replica sofa where Andrew Borden was found. But back in 1892, the house was a place of tension, of heat, and of unanswered questions. The mystery remains, and it will likely never be solved. Let's move now to a quieter, colder place. We find ourselves in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, in the winter of 1897. The land here is ancient, the hills rolling gently, covered in bare trees. The roads are ruts of frozen mud, slick and difficult to navigate. We are far from the city, in a place where folklore and reality are intertwined, where the past lingers in the air like the mist that rises off the hills. In this quiet, isolated place, a young woman named Zona Histershoe dies on a cold January day. Her husband Erasmus finds her body and dresses her in a high-necked dress with a stiff collar before the doctor even arrives. He arranges her body in the bed, her head propped up just so, and he waits for the authorities to arrive. The community mourns her passing and the winter drags on. But there is more to this story than meets the eye. Zona's mother, Mary Jane Hester, begins to have troubling dreams. In the dead of night, when the world is quiet and still, Zona appears to her. 4 nights in a row she visits her mother in the dark, whispering that her death was no accident. She speaks of the anger of her husband, of the broken neck that caused her death. Now usually dreams are forgotten with the morning light, but Mary Jane Hester does not forget. She goes to the local prosecutor, John Alfred Preston, and tells him what her daughter's ghost has said. Imagine that meeting, a grieving mother, alone in a small wood-paneled office, telling a man of the law about the ghost of her daughter and the message she has brought from beyond the grave. What happens next is astonishing. The prosecutor listens to Mary Jane. He takes her seriously. He orders an exhumation. In the thaw of late winter, Zona's body is raised from the grave. An autopsy is performed, and the doctor finds exactly what Zona's ghost had described: a broken neck. Zona's husband, Erasmus Shuey, is arrested and put on trial. And in the records of the West Virginia legal system, the testimony of the ghost is entered into the court records. It is debated and discussed, and it is ultimately used to help convict Erasmus of his wife's murder. This is the only known case in American history where the testimony of a ghost helped secure a murder conviction. But the real mystery is not about the ghost, it's about the intersection of the rational and the irrational. How did Mary Jane know? Was it simply a mother's intuition, her subconscious mind piecing together the fragments of evidence that the living could not see? Or was it truly a voice from beyond the veil? We may never know, but tonight we don't need to solve the mystery. Let us simply rest in the quiet of those mountains, the snow falling softly on the grave, the stillness of a winter night in 1897, the secrets that the earth keeps and the secrets it sometimes, very rarely, gives back. And so we have traveled together tonight, from the cold streets of New York to the dry, sun-baked desert of Arizona, from the stifling rooms of a New England house to the frozen hills of West Virginia. We have walked through the mysteries, the silence, the questions that have no answers. The world is full of unsolved American mysteries, stories that have been lost to time, like the whispers of the past. But as we lie here in the quiet of the night, we don't need to find the answers. The beauty of history is not in the solving, but in the stillness, in the moments that slip through our fingers like sand, like snow, like time. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey through the past. If you are still awake and my voice has helped you relax, I invite you to gently press the subscribe button. But for now, let the questions fade away. Let the names and dates drift into the background and let sleep come softly, like the night itself. Now that we've drifted through the stories of the Manhattan Well, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, let us settle deeper into the shadows of history. We have walked through quiet mysteries, and now we move forward slowly, quietly, with no rush. There is no need to hurry or worry. We've witnessed 4 tales of loss, of silence, of unanswered questions that remain woven into the fabric of time. But tonight we aren't seeking resolutions. Instead, we are here to embrace the tranquility of these forgotten moments, lost in the river of history. As we go further, let us remember that history itself is not merely a collection of facts and dates. It is the rhythm of our lives, the texture of the spaces we inhabit, the sound of our footsteps on a quiet street, the soft whispers of old buildings and the gentle hum of forgotten voices. Let's take a moment to feel the history all around us, to let it settle in like a soft blanket. The story is not always about the climax, but the journey, the soft, peaceful walk through time. In the previous sections, we ventured through New York City in the winter of 1799, with its muddy roads and cobblestone streets, through the dry canyons of Arizona in 1882, where the air shimmered with heat, and to the cramped, humid rooms of a Victorian house in Massachusetts in 1892. These quiet histories, though distant in time, feel near to us now, don't they? They share the same human threads, mystery, loss, the search for answers, and yet they remain unspoken, unwritten in the grand books of history. They sit beneath the surface like quiet rivers beneath the earth, moving slowly, with purpose but no voice. Let us continue our journey now, but with the same calm, the same slow, steady rhythm. There is no need to grasp at the fleeting answers of the past. No, Tonight we rest in the unknown. The world is full of forgotten lives, unsung heroes, untold stories that have yet to find their place. We can only listen gently and let them tell themselves. As we continue through time, we encounter more mysteries, many of them even quieter than the ones we've already explored. They are the ones that go unnoticed by many, the ones that exist in the shadows of the past. Think of them as whispers in the dark corners of an old house. They don't shout or demand attention, they simply exist, waiting to be discovered by those who are willing to listen. Perhaps it's the story of a long-forgotten neighborhood, a quiet street where the echoes of past footsteps still linger in the air. Or maybe it's the tale of a solitary figure walking alone down a dusty road, heading towards an uncertain fate. It could be the life of a simple worker whose name has never been recorded in history books, but whose daily tasks shape the world around them in ways we may never understand. These are the stories that often go unnoticed, overshadowed by the louder, more dramatic events of history. But tonight we will give them a voice. In the silence of these forgotten moments, we'll pause and listen, not for the grand achievements or shocking discoveries, but for the little things, the details that make these stories uniquely human. It's in these quiet moments that the true essence of history lies. The passage of time is slow, steady, and rhythmic. It does not rush, nor does it pause for any one individual. Time moves forward, carrying with it the stories of those who have come before. And just as we cannot hold onto the past, we also cannot speed up the future. We can only observe gently and allow the passage of time to unfold before us. Consider the people who lived in the small towns and villages of the past. They didn't know that their names would one day be forgotten. They didn't know that their simple lives, their quiet struggles and joys would fade into the background of history. But we, tonight, are here to remember them. We are here to witness their stories, however small, however quiet. The connections between these quiet moments in history are often invisible to the naked eye, but they are there, just beneath the surface, like the roots of a tree stretching deep into the earth. Each event, each life, each whisper of the past is part of a larger story, one that we may never fully comprehend. It is a story that is always unfolding, always growing, even as we sleep. Tonight we are simply a part of that story. We are observers, drifting through time, gently resting in the soft currents of history. We don't need to know every detail or every answer. The beauty of this journey lies in the quiet observation, in the stillness of the moments we encounter. As we near the end of our journey tonight, let us pause and reflect on the quiet comfort that comes with unanswered questions. There's something peaceful about not knowing everything. There is a certain tranquility in leaving some mysteries unsolved, in letting the past remain as it is, untouched, unblemished, and untouched by our need for answers. Think of it as a beautiful painting that we can admire without feeling the need to dissect it. We don't need to know every brushstroke, every color choice. We simply need to take in the beauty, the stillness, the quiet perfection of what we see before us. So, tonight let us leave the unanswered questions where they are. Let us Rest in the quiet, knowing that we don't need to solve every mystery. We don't need to rush to the end. Instead, we can simply listen to the soft rhythm of the past, feel its presence around us, and let it carry us gently into sleep. As we draw closer to the end of our journey, let us take one last deep breath together. Feel the weight of the day lift away as we step into the quiet of the night. The stories we've heard tonight, though quiet and unassuming, are an integral part of the fabric of time. They are the whispers in the dark, the soft footsteps that echo through the halls of history. But for now, we let them rest. We let the stories settle into the shadows, where they will remain until we choose to return to them again. There is no need to remember every detail, no need to hold on to every name or date. Tonight we simply let go. We allow the quiet of the past to envelop us, to soothe us into sleep. Good night, dear listener. Thank you for walking with me through these forgotten moments in history. Tomorrow the world will continue its march forward, but for now we rest. Let the past fade into the background where it belongs, and let the quiet of the night take over. Sleep well and remember that history is always here, waiting for us to return whenever we need it. And so, as the night deepens and the world outside grows quieter, I wish you peaceful dreams. Let the questions of the past float away, drifting like the stars in the sky, just out of reach but still beautiful. History is not a race. It is a journey that we walk at our own pace, one step at a time. When the morning comes, the world will be waiting, but for now, let us rest. History will always be here, just like the gentle rhythm of time, moving forward quietly, softly, and without haste. Remember, you can always return to these stories whenever you need them. They will always be here, waiting in the quiet corners of your mind, ready to help you drift back into the soothing embrace of sleep. Sweet dreams as we begin the next part of our journey through the soft shadows of history. It's important to understand that the stories we've touched on tonight are but small pieces of a much larger puzzle. These moments, these events are often overlooked, tucked away in the far corners of time. Yet, it is in these quiet places that history speaks the loudest, echoing with voices long gone but never forgotten. We are often taught that history is a series of grand events, of battles won and lost, of kings and queens, of revolutions and revolts. But the truth, as we've seen tonight, is far quieter. It's in the little things, the lives of ordinary people, the mundane events of daily life, and the quiet struggles that are never recorded. These are the stories that fill the gaps between the more famous moments, and they are just as important. Imagine the small towns, the quiet neighborhoods, the dusty roads where people lived and worked, unnoticed by the larger world. These are the places where history is made, not in the pages of textbooks, but in the conversations between friends, the quiet moments between tasks, and the small choices that go unnoticed. In these spaces, the world hums gently without drama or fanfare, and it is in these moments that history, as we know it, is shaped. Tonight, as we rest in the quietude of the past, let's remember the stories of the ordinary people who lived in these small forgotten corners of history. We don't know their names. Their lives are not recorded in any grand history books, but they still matter. Every person who lived, worked, and loved in the quiet spaces of history contributed something to the larger narrative of our world. Let's take a moment to imagine their lives. The farmer waking before dawn to tend to the crops, the blacksmith working tirelessly at the forge, the housekeeper sweeping the floors, the shopkeeper arranging goods on shelves. Their lives were simple, their days long, their labor hard, yet they are the heartbeat of history. Without their quiet, steady contributions, the grand events of the world would not have been possible. It is in the humble, the quiet, and the unnoticed that history is truly written. If we look closely, we can see the patterns in the past that were once invisible. These patterns are not dramatic or sudden, but slow and subtle, like the changing of the seasons. They stretch across decades, sometimes even centuries, unnoticed by those who lived through them. Yet when we look back, we can see them clearly. The patterns of change, of growth, and of quiet revolution. These are the invisible threads that tie the stories we've heard tonight together. Consider the way a neighborhood evolves over time. Perhaps at first it's just a few houses, some humble beginnings, but over time new families move in, new businesses open, children are born and grow up, people leave, others stay, and the neighborhood changes with them. It's not a sudden transformation, but a gradual one. And yet, when we look back years later, we can see how much has changed. The same is true of history. It is not always a series of sharp, dramatic changes, but a series of small, almost imperceptible shifts that eventually create a new world. These quiet revolutions, the ones that happen in the corners of the world, far from the spotlight, are the true engine of history. It is in these subtle changes that we can find the most profound shifts. The lives of ordinary people, the everyday events, the mundane routines, all of these contribute to the world we live in today. As we move forward in our journey through time, let's consider how these quiet moments in history shape the present. The past is not something distant, something that exists only in the pages of history books. It is something that lingers, something that we carry with us every day. The stories of the past, of the people who lived and worked and struggled in ways we will never fully understand, are still with us. They are the shadows of history that we walk in even when we don't realize it. When we walk through a city or through a quiet street, we are walking through history. Every building, every road, every corner is imbued with the stories of those who came before us. Their lives, their struggles, their choices, they all live on in the places they inhabited. And though we may not always see them, we are still influenced by them. Their lives are the foundation upon which our own are built. Memory too plays a crucial role in history. It's not just the grand events that are remembered, it's the small personal memories that accumulate over time, the ones that are passed down from generation to generation. These memories shape our understanding of the past, and in doing so, they shape the future. When we think back on the lives of the people we've encountered tonight, we may not know their names, but we can remember their stories. We can remember the places they lived, the routines they followed, the quiet struggles they faced. These memories, though small and seemingly insignificant, are what connect us to the past. They remind us that history is not just a series of events, but a collection of lived experiences passed down through the ages. Some Now let us reflect on the power of the unspoken. Some stories are never told. Some lives go unnoticed, and yet they matter. These are the stories that are whispered in the quiet corners of history, the ones that aren't written in books, the ones that aren't recorded in newspapers or journals. These stories are just as important as the ones that are remembered, perhaps more so, for it is in the silence, in the unspoken, that we can often find the most profound truths. Think about the quiet moments we experience every day, the gentle sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the soft glow of the moon on a clear night, the stillness that surrounds us when we sit in silence. These moments, though simple, are filled with meaning. They speak to us without words, without explanation, and in this silence we often find the answers we seek. As we move through the shadows of history, we can begin to see the unseen connections that bind everything together. These connections are not always obvious. They are the quiet links between people, places, and events. They are the threads that weave through time, connecting the past with the present, the forgotten with the remembered. Every story we've told tonight is part of this larger web of history. Each moment, each person, each event is connected to something else. And though we may not always see these connections, they are always there, quietly holding everything together. It is these connections that give history its meaning. It is these connections that allow us to understand the past and, in doing so, understand ourselves. As we reach the end of our journey tonight, let's take one final moment to reflect on what we've experienced. We've traveled through quiet corners of history where the answers remain hidden and the stories are slow and steady. But even in this quiet, we've found something meaningful. We've found the small moments that make up the fabric of our lives, the quiet stories that connect us to the past and to each other. History is not always about the grand events, the loud moments, the dramatic twists. It is often about the quiet, the unnoticed, the unspoken. It is in these moments that we find the true meaning of the past. And as we close our eyes tonight, let us carry with us the stories of the forgotten, the lost, and the silent. Let us carry with us the peaceful, quiet rhythm of history, drifting gently into the night. Let the stillness of the past fill your dreams. Let the quiet whispers of history surround you as you rest. And when you wake, remember that the past will always be there, waiting for you to return to it, just as we have tonight. As we continue our journey tonight, it's worth considering how time itself moves forward. It marches on, steady and silent, like a river that flows without ever looking back. We often think of time as a linear force, moving from one moment to the next. But in reality, time is more like a sea, ebbing and flowing with subtle rhythms that are easy to miss if you're not paying close attention. Consider how the events we've explored tonight seem to blur together. Though they are separated by years and locations, they share a common thread: quiet lives, ordinary people, and the long-forgotten moments that shape history. Each of these stories, in its own way, was part of the larger flow of time. The people involved had no idea that their quiet moments would one day be recounted in a tale meant to help others sleep. Yet here we are, listening to the slow, soft rhythm of their lives. This, dear listener, is the beauty of history, not in the loud moments, but in the subtle, the slow, the unspoken. History is not a race to the finish, but a long, slow journey that winds its way through time. It is in the stillness of these journeys that we find the true meaning of life itself. It's important to remember that the stories of the past, even the forgotten ones, leave behind the legacy. Whether we know it or not, the people who lived before us have shaped the world in ways that are still present today. Their quiet actions, their mundane routines, their simple choices, they all add up over time, creating the world we now live in. Think of the quiet farmers who worked the land. Think of the artisans who created the objects we now treasure as relics of the past. These people didn't know that their work would be remembered centuries later, but here we are reflecting on their lives. Their legacy is not in the grand achievements or the dramatic moments, but in the simple everyday acts that went unnoticed in their time. And so it is with all of us. Though we may not know it now, the actions we take today, however small, will form the foundation of the future. Just as we are connected to the past, so too are we linked to the future. Time moves forward relentlessly, but we are never truly separate from the stories of those who came before us. As we continue through our journey tonight, let us reflect on the unseen patterns that make up the tapestry of history. These patterns are often difficult to see in the moment, but when we look back, when we step outside of time, we can begin to see them clearly. One of the most beautiful aspects of history is that it is full of repetition. Not in a way that's predictable or boring, but in a way that creates a quiet sense of rhythm. People live, they work, they love, they suffer, and then they die. But their stories are passed on, like whispers through the generations, reminding us that nothing truly disappears. In each of the stories we've encountered tonight, the tale of the Manhattan Well, the silence surrounding Johnny Ringo, the mystery of Lizzie Borden, and the ghostly tale of Greenbrier, we see echoes of the same human experiences. Lives cut short, questions left unanswered, quiet corners of the world that continue to hold their secrets. It's in these small, seemingly insignificant details that history's patterns emerge. Just like the rings in a tree, the patterns of history are visible only when we take a moment to look closely. We may never fully understand them, but that's okay. Perhaps the beauty lies in the mystery itself. Tonight we've embraced the role of silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of space. Space where history can breathe, where stories can live and evolve. The silence we encounter in these forgotten tales is not empty. It is full of meaning. It is the pause between the notes of a song, the space between words in a poem. It is in this silence that we find the room to reflect, to remember and to dream. The history we've explored tonight is filled with moments of silence, moments where the questions remain unanswered, where the truth is elusive, where the mysteries are not solved. But rather than feeling frustrated by this, we can embrace it. After all, not everything needs to be explained. Sometimes the beauty of a story lies in its mystery, in the quiet space it leaves for us to wonder and to reflect. There is something uniquely beautiful about unsolved mysteries. They offer us a window into the past, a glimpse into lives that were lived long before we ever arrived. But these mysteries are more than just puzzles. They are invitations to explore, to question, and to dream. Each of the cases we've discussed tonight, the Manhattan Well murder, Johnny Ringo's death, Lizzie Borden's trial, and the Greenbrier Ghost, reminds us of the beauty of the unknown. The answers may never come, but the questions remain, lingering in the corners of our minds like whispers in the wind. It's the unanswered questions that give these stories their power. If we knew all the answers, the stories would lose their mystery. But because we don't, we are free to imagine, to explore, and to dream. In this way, history becomes a living, breathing thing. Yet it's not just something we look back on, it's something that continues to shape our thoughts, our feelings, and our dreams. The quiet reassurance of the past. As we reach the final moments of our journey tonight, let's take a moment to reflect on the quiet reassurance of the past. These stories, though lost in time, remind us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. The lives of those who came before us may be quiet, their struggles unnoticed, but they were real, they lived, they loved, they worked, and they died. And in doing so, they left behind a world that we can still connect with today. As we close our eyes tonight, let us remember that we are part of this long, slow march through time. The past is not something distant or irrelevant. It is alive in the present, in the quiet moments we experience every day. The choices we make today will become the stories of tomorrow. Let us take comfort in this. The past is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is full of quiet, unspoken wisdom waiting for us to listen. And as we drift off to sleep, let us rest in the knowledge that history, in all its quiet beauty, will always be here waiting for us to return whenever we are ready. We've traveled far tonight, from the muddy streets of 1799 New York to the dry canyons of Arizona, from the stifling rooms of the Borden house in Massachusetts to the hills of Greenbrier in West Virginia. We've encountered 4 quiet mysteries, each with its own story, its own whispers, its own questions that may never be answered. But in these mysteries, we've found something precious. We've found the quiet beauty of history, the soft, steady rhythm of time that moves us all forward. We've seen how the past lingers, how it speaks to us in whispers, in questions, and in silence. As we close our eyes tonight, let us carry these stories with us. Let them drift through our minds like soft clouds in the sky, never fully gone, always there, waiting for us to return. History is not something we need to solve, it is something we need to experience, to feel, to live. And as we rest, Let us remember that we are part of this story, a story that stretches back through time, and a story that will continue long after we are gone. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey through the past. The night is now yours, and the mysteries of the past will remain just that, mysterious. But they are also beautiful, sweet dreams. And remember, history will always be here, waiting for us to return. As we lie here, enveloped in the quiet embrace of the night, let us think about the echoes of the past, the soft whispers that still linger, though the voices have long since faded. These echoes come to us in many forms: the creaking of old wood, the rustling of leaves in the wind, the distant rumble of thunder, or perhaps the faint sound of footsteps on a forgotten path. The past speaks to us in ways we don't always recognize. History, like a river, moves gently forward, leaving behind the quiet ripples of what once was. It is easy to think of the past as something final, something fixed in time, but the truth is that the past is always with us. It exists in the quiet spaces between moments, in the stillness of the world around us. Every step we take, every breath we draw, is part of the ongoing story of humanity. Tonight we are simply moving through the pages of that story, quietly, gently, letting the details unfold at their own pace. No rush, no urgency, just the steady rhythm of time moving us forward into the mysteries of the past, where answers aren't always necessary, and where the beauty lies in the questions themselves. As we explore the quiet corners of history, it's important to acknowledge the unseen forces that shape our world. These forces aren't always visible, nor are they always understood, but they are real nonetheless. They are the currents of time that carry us forward even when we don't realize it. Think of these forces as the gentle wind that blows through a field, unseen but always present. It shapes the landscape, moving the grass, the trees, the flowers. Yet we don't always feel its touch. It is the same with history. The forces that shape our lives are often invisible, but they leave their mark on the world around us. The quiet moments we've encountered tonight, the stories of the Manhattan Well, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, are all shaped by these unseen forces, the decisions people made, the actions they took, the quiet choices that they didn't even realize were shaping their world. These moments may seem small on their own, but when viewed from a distance, they form part of a larger pattern, a pattern that is still unfolding today. As we listen to the quiet stories of the past, it's important to remember that these stories are not just about the people who lived them. They are also about us. The human experience in all its complexity is timeless. The same emotions that the people in our stories felt, fear, love, longing, regret, are the same emotions that we feel today. This connection to the past, this shared human experience, is one of the most beautiful aspects of history. We may be separated by time, but we are never truly separated from the emotions and experiences that make us human. Every person we encounter in history, no matter how distant, is someone who walked the same earth, breathed the same air, and felt the same fundamental emotions. And in this way, history is not just a series of dates and events. It is a living, breathing thing. It is the story of us all, and as we rest here tonight, we are part of that story. We are part of a long, slow journey that stretches back through time and moves forward into the future. The past, the present, and the future are all connected like the threads of a great tapestry. There is something comforting about the unknown. It's easy to become anxious about what we don't know, about what is hidden from us. But when we think about history, about the mysteries that remain unsolved, there is a certain peace in accepting that we don't need to have all the answers. Some mysteries are meant to remain that way, some stories are meant to be left unfinished. Think about the stories of the past that have no clear resolution. The cases of the Manhattan Well and Johnny Ringo, for example. We may never know exactly what happened, but that's okay. The beauty of these mysteries lies not in their resolution but in their mystery. They invite us to think, to reflect, and to imagine. In the same way, the unknown future is not something to fear, but something to embrace. We don't know what lies ahead, but we can move forward with a sense of peace, knowing that the unknown is part of the human experience. It is in the mystery that we find growth, in the uncertainty that we find change. The unknown is not an absence but a possibility, and as we rest here tonight, we can take comfort in the unknown. We don't need to know everything, and we don't need to solve every mystery. Sometimes just being present with the unknown is enough. In this moment, let's slow down and reflect. We've traveled through time tonight, moving from one quiet corner of history to the next. We've listened to the stories of forgotten lives, unsolved mysteries, and unspoken truths, and now we find ourselves in the quiet space between stories where we can simply rest. Reflection, like history, moves at its own pace. It does not hurry, it does not rush, it is slow and steady, like the tide moving in and out, or like the wind slowly changing the shape of a sand dune. Reflection allows us to process, to absorb, to understand the meaning behind the stories we've heard. Take a moment now to reflect on the stories we've shared. Let them wash over you like the softest of waves. What do they mean to you? What have you learned from them? You don't need to have all the answers. Just sit with the questions and let them fill the space around you. As you reflect, remember that history is not just about what happened, it is also about what it means to us now, in this moment. The past is not a distant land, unreachable and far away. It is alive in the present, in the way we live, the way we think, and the way we relate to the world around us. Time, like the stories we've explored tonight, moves quietly and without fanfare. It is not rushed, nor is it static. It simply is. It flows slowly and steadily like a river that winds its way through the landscape, carving out new paths and shaping the world around it. And just as time moves forward, so too do we. We move through life, through history, carrying with us the stories of those who came before us. These stories, though quiet and sometimes forgotten, are part of us. They shape the way we see the world, the way we interact with each other, and the way we live our lives. In this stillness we can find peace. We don't need to chase after the future or cling to the past. We can simply be present in the moment, knowing that we are part of the long, quiet march of time. We are not alone in this journey. We are surrounded by the stories of those who came before us, and we are part of the story that is unfolding right now. As the day comes to a close, let us take one final moment to reflect on the quiet beauty of the past. We have traveled through history tonight, moving from one mystery to the next, exploring the shadows of time and discovering the unseen patterns that shape our lives. And as we rest here, let us remember that history is not just something we look back on. It is something we live. It is part of us. So as you close your eyes tonight, let the quiet beauty of the past wash over you. Let the mysteries remain unanswered for now. Let the stillness of time surround you, and let the stories of the past drift away like soft clouds in the sky. May the gentle rhythm of time carry you into peaceful dreams. The past is always here waiting for us to return whenever we need it. Sleep well and remember that history will always be with you, just as it has always been with us. As we find ourselves moving further into the quiet corners of history, let us take a moment to consider the tapestry that we are all part of. History is a vast and intricate web, woven with the threads of countless lives, moments, and choices. Each thread, though seemingly insignificant, contributes to the larger picture. Some threads are brighter, standing out against the background, while others fade into the edges, barely noticeable, but they are all necessary. Without even the smallest of threads, the fabric would be incomplete. This tapestry of time is constantly being woven, or with each passing moment, adding a new thread to the whole. The moments we've explored tonight, whether it's the lonely silence of Johnny Ringo, the stillness of the Borden house, or the quiet mystery of the Greenbrier Ghost, are all threads in the grand design of history. And as we rest here, we are part of that design too. Our lives, our choices, our quiet moments are also threads that will eventually be woven into the fabric of time. And though we may not always see the bigger picture, we can trust that our place in history is meaningful. Every action we take, no matter how small, is part of the ongoing creation of this tapestry. We are all connected, both to those who came before us and to those who will come after us. The past, the present, and the future are all woven together, creating a continuous, uninterrupted flow. The silent flow of generations. As we rest here tonight, we are not only connected to the past, but also to the future. The lives of those who came before us have shaped the world we live in today, just as the actions we take now will shape the world for those who come after us. Time moves in a continuous flow from one generation to the next, with each generation adding its own story to the ongoing narrative. The people we've encountered tonight, though long gone, are still part of this flow. Their choices, their lives, and their struggles are woven into the fabric of history, just as our own lives will be. The world we live in today is the result of countless generations of quiet lives, of mundane moments, of unsolved mysteries that have slowly shaped the course of time. We may not know what the future holds, but we can trust that it too will be shaped by the quiet, everyday actions of people just like us. Each small choice we make is a thread in the larger tapestry of time, and though we may not always see the impact of our actions, they are always contributing to the ongoing story of humanity. The beauty of small moments. In the stories we've explored tonight, we've witnessed the beauty of small moments, the quiet steps, the unnoticed actions, the ordinary lives that make up the grand narrative of history. These moments may seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but they are not. In fact, it is often in the small, mundane moments that we find the true beauty of life. Think of the simple acts of daily life: the farmer tending to his crops, the blacksmith hammering iron at his forge, the housekeeper sweeping the floor, the child playing in the yard. These moments, though seemingly small, are what give life its texture. They are what make the world feel alive, real, and connected. History is made up of these moments. It is in the quiet, everyday actions of ordinary people that the true story of humanity is written. These moments may not be recorded in the annals of history, but they are no less important. They are the heart of history, the pulse that keeps the world moving forward. And as we rest here tonight, let us remember the beauty of these small moments. Let us remember that the mundane is not meaningless. It is in these moments that we find the true essence of life. As we continue our journey through time, we must remember that history moves at its own pace. It does not rush, it does not hurry. It moves slowly, steadily, like the ticking of a clock or the turning of the seasons. The past, present, and future are all part of this rhythm, and it is a rhythm that is as old as time itself. The stories we've explored tonight are part of this slow march of history. They may not be the loudest stories, the most dramatic, or the most widely known, but they are no less important. They are part of the quiet, steady pulse of time, and they remind us that history is not just about grand events and dramatic moments. It is also about the quiet, subtle rhythms that shape the world. We may not always notice the rhythm of history as it unfolds, but it is always there, moving beneath the surface. It is in the slow turning of the wheels of time, in the quiet passing of the years, in the gentle ebb and flow of the world around us. The rhythm of history is constant, and it is this rhythm that gives life its meaning. Throughout history, we see a quiet resilience. The stories of the past are not always filled with triumph or glory, but they are filled with perseverance. The people we've encountered tonight, whether they were seeking justice, trying to solve a mystery, or simply living their lives, demonstrate a quiet strength that has carried them through time. This resilience is not always obvious. It does not shout or demand attention, but it is there in every moment of struggle, in every act of endurance. It is the strength to keep going even when the road is difficult, even when the answers are elusive. As we rest here tonight, we are part of this same quiet resilience. We too are living through our own moments of struggle and perseverance. And just like those who came before us, that we will find our way through. History shows us that even in the darkest of times, there is always a quiet strength that carries us forward. So let us rest in this strength tonight. Let the quiet resilience of the past fill us with peace and reassurance. We are part of this ongoing story. and like those who have come before us, we will continue to move forward step by quiet step through the rhythms of time. As we draw closer to the end of our journey tonight, let's take one last moment to reflect on the timeless connection between the past and the present. Though we are separated from those who came before us by time, their stories are always with us. They are woven into the very fabric of our lives, shaping the world we live in today. The quiet moments we've explored tonight, the forgotten mysteries, the ordinary lives, the unsolved questions are still part of the world we inhabit. The past is not something distant, something separate from our lives. It is alive within us, shaping our thoughts, our actions, and our understanding of the world. Tonight, as we rest, let's embrace this connection. Let's remember that we are part of a larger story, a story that stretches back through time and moves forward into the future. The lives of those who came before us are still with us, living on in the choices we make, in the moments we share, and in the history we continue to create. As the night deepens, let's embrace the gentle rhythm of sleep. Let the quiet, steady pace of history lull us into rest. We have traveled far tonight through the streets of New York, the deserts of Arizona, the Victorian house in Massachusetts, and the hills of West Virginia. We have explored mysteries, listened to the whispers of the past, and reflected on the quiet resilience of those who came before us. Now it is time to rest. Let the rhythm of the night carry you gently into sleep. The stories we've shared will remain with you, like soft echoes in the distance, waiting for you to return to them whenever you need to. As we move further into the night, let us explore something truly profound, the comfort of the unspoken. History is filled with moments that are never fully explained, mysteries that remain just out of reach. In a world obsessed with answers and resolutions, there's something almost serene about leaving some things untouched, some things unsaid. When we look back on the tales we've explored tonight, the mysterious disappearance of Elma Sands, the quiet death of Johnny Ringo, the unsolved tragedy in the Borden house, and the haunting revelations of the Greenbrier Ghost, we notice that many of the key questions remain unanswered. There are no neat conclusions, no final judgment, and in this silence, in this ambiguity, there is peace. The past is not always a series of solved puzzles. It is sometimes a delicate tapestry of uncertainties with threads that resist being pulled too tight. And that perhaps is the beauty of it. We do not need to resolve everything to find meaning in the stories of the past. There is comfort in not knowing all the answers. The unspoken parts of history, the ones that are left in the quiet corners of time, hold a kind of soft magic. So as we rest here tonight, let us embrace the unspoken. Let the silence of history surround us, like the stillness of a quiet room. There is no rush, no need to fill the gaps. We can simply be, and in being, we find peace. History is full of quiet secrets. These are the stories that we can never fully know, the truths that remain hidden, sometimes deliberately, sometimes simply because they have been lost to time. Every era, every place, every person has its secrets. And while some of these secrets may be troubling or mysterious, others are simply too delicate to be fully understood. The case of Lizzie Borden, for example, may have its obvious conclusions, but there is still an underlying mystery that surrounds it. The unanswered questions about her innocence or guilt linger in the soft, shadowy spaces, and the quiet of the house on 2nd Street, with its intricate maze of rooms, has always felt like it holds something more, something just beneath the surface. But perhaps it is the most silent, most overlooked parts of history that are the most important. They are the whispered stories of those who lived on the margins, of people whose lives were deemed unimportant by society, but whose quiet actions contributed to the greater story of humankind. Their secrets, their stories, are often lost, but they are no less significant. Tonight, let us remember those forgotten secrets. Let us listen to the whispers that history has left behind. Even in silence, there is meaning. Even in the forgotten corners, there is a story. And we, as quiet observers, can reflect on these lost pieces of the past, finding in them the subtle connections that bind us all. Sometimes the most important parts of a story happen in the spaces between the events, the pauses, the silences, the moments when nothing happens. These pauses, these quiet intervals, are often overlooked in the rush to tell a story, but it is in these moments that we can find true reflection, true peace. Think about the spaces between the stories we've explored tonight. The pause between the discovery of Elma Sand's body and the slow, methodical investigation that followed. The stillness of the desert after Johnny Ringo's body was found, a quiet valley filled with the weight of unanswered questions. The calm routine of the Borden house before the tragedy struck. A house filled with the slow hum of daily life and the silence of the Greenbrier Hills, where the ghost of Zona Histershu whispered to her mother in the quiet of the night. In each of these moments nothing dramatic happens, and yet it is in these moments of stillness that history unfolds. We don't always need action or answers to find meaning. Sometimes simply being present in the quiet, in the pause, is enough, and tonight as we rest, we are in one of those moments, a quiet pause between the stories of the past and the future that lies ahead. History is also about healing. It is not always about resolution, but about allowing time to heal the wounds of the past. The stories we've explored tonight are full of pain, of loss, of questions that remain unanswered. But even in their silence, there is a sense of healing that takes place. In the case of the Manhattan Well, the mystery of Elma Sand's death may never be solved, but over time the pain of that moment fades. The trial, the questions, the legal battles, they all fade into the background of history, leaving behind only the well, silent and still. As a reminder of what once was, it may never give us the answers we seek, but it stands as a quiet witness to the passage of time. The same can be said for Johnny Ringo. His death too remains an unsolved mystery, but with time the drama of the moment fades. The desert, indifferent as always, moves on, and the memory of Ringo's last moments becomes just another part of the past, slipping slowly into the quiet of time's embrace. Even the story of Lizzie Borden, with its questions of guilt and innocence, has been softened by time. The house on 2nd Street, once a place of tension and mystery, is now a bed and breakfast. its secrets buried beneath the layers of daily life. And the Greenbrier Ghost, though a case unlike any other, has become a part of the folklore, a quiet memory that lingers but does not demand answers. This is the way of time. It does not rush to heal. It takes its time, gently, slowly. It allows for the wounds to fade, for the questions to become less urgent, for the pain to soften. History's slow, quiet healing is a reminder that not all things need to be fixed. Not all mysteries need to be solved. Some things in time simply fade into the background, becoming part of the soft fabric of life. As we approach the final moments of our journey through the past tonight, let us consider the peace that history offers. History is not always about tension, drama, and action. It is also about finding peace in the unknown, in the quiet moments, in the unresolved mysteries. The past, with all its secrets and unanswered questions, holds a certain peace. It is not a peace of resolution, but a peace of acceptance. It is the peace that comes from knowing that some things are beyond our understanding, that some stories are meant to be left unfinished. And in this acceptance there is a quiet beauty. Tonight, as we rest, let us embrace this peace. Let the mysteries of the past float gently through our minds, without the need to solve them. Let us allow the silence of history to surround us, comforting us in its quiet embrace. There is no need for answers, no need for resolutions. We are simply here together in the quiet space of the night, reflecting on the stories of those who came before us. And as we rest tonight, let's remember that history is always unfolding. The past may be silent, but the future is full of possibility. While we cannot change the past, we can shape the future. We are part of the ongoing story, and the actions we take today will be the stories of tomorrow. But for now, there is no need to rush ahead. We can rest in the quiet of the night, letting the peaceful rhythm of time carry us into sleep. Tomorrow will come, but tonight is ours to enjoy, to reflect, and to rest. Good night, dear listener. May the quiet whispers of history fill your dreams tonight. The stories we've shared will always be here, waiting for you to return whenever you need them. Sleep well, and remember, the past is never far away. It is always with us, quietly, softly, like the gentle embrace of time itself. As we journey deeper into the quiet night, let's consider the passage of time once more. Time, like the softest of melodies, moves steadily, imperceptibly, leaving only faint echoes in its wake. The moments we've spent tonight, drifting through the stories of the past, are a small part of this never-ending flow. The past and the future are like the ebb and flow of the ocean. We can't control the tides, we can't stop the current, but we can choose how we respond to it. We can let the rhythm of time guide us, gently and slowly, as we move through life. There is no need to rush or fight the tide. We simply need to let it carry us just as it has carried those before us. History too moves in its own quiet rhythm. The people we've met tonight, the quiet, often forgotten figures who lived in the shadows of grander events, are part of this ongoing flow. Their stories, though small in the grand scheme of things, still echo through the corridors of time, and as we listen to their stories, we become part of that rhythm. Let's take a moment to reflect on this connection to the past. this silent passage of time. We are not separate from those who came before us. We are part of the same flow, the same current that has moved through the ages, carrying with it the stories of countless lives. Section 18: The Enduring Shadows of the Past. While time moves forward, the shadows of the past remain. These are not dark shadows, but quiet ones, like the soft traces left by a distant memory. They linger in the background, gently shaping the present in ways we often don't notice. The stories we've explored tonight are shadows in the fabric of history. They may not be as dramatic or widely known as other events, but they still leave their mark. Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, the Greenbrier Ghost. They are all part of the quiet legacy that shapes the world we live in today. And just like these stories, our own lives will eventually become shadows in the fabric of time. The choices we make today, the lives we touch, the quiet moments we share, will one day be part of the past. They will linger just as the stories of those who came before us linger in the quiet corners of history. But there is no need to fear these shadows. They are not something to hide from, but something to embrace. It is through these quiet moments, these silent connections, that we come to understand our place in the world. The past is not a distant, irrelevant thing. It is part of us, always present, always influencing the way we live. History is not a linear path. It is not a straight line that moves from one moment to the next. Instead, it is more like a web, constantly expanding, connecting the past to the present and the future. Each story we encounter is a thread in this web, and every action we take adds another strand to it. The people we've met tonight are part of this web. Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, the Greenbrier Ghost. Their stories, though small, are interconnected with the larger flow of history. And just like them, we too are part of this web. Our actions, our lives, our stories will one day be woven into the fabric of time. We are not isolated from history. We are part of it, always moving, always shifting, always growing. Think of it this way: the web of history is not something we can see in its entirety. We can only see the small strands, the moments that make up the whole. But every strand, no matter how small, is important. Without even the tiniest thread, the web would be incomplete. As we lie here tonight, let's reflect on our place in this web. We are just one thread, but we are a part of something much larger. We are connected to those who came before us and those who will come after us. The web of history stretches out before us, an infinite expanse of stories, memories, and moments. There is solace in the unfinished. It is easy to feel a sense of loss when a story is left unresolved, when a mystery is left unsolved. But tonight, let us take comfort in the unfinished. Some stories are meant to remain open-ended. They are meant to leave us with questions, with a sense of wonder, and perhaps even with a quiet peace that comes from knowing that not all mysteries need to be solved. History is full of unfinished stories. The murder of Elma Sands, the unexplained death of Johnny Ringo, the strange events in the Borden house, and the eerie whispers of the Greenbrier Ghost. None of these stories have clear, definitive answers, but that doesn't make them any less meaningful. In fact, it's the very unfinished nature of these stories that makes them so intriguing. They invite us to reflect, to think, and to imagine what might have happened. And this, dear listener, is the beauty of history. It is not always about the answers. It is about the questions, the wonder, the quiet mysteries that invite us to explore. History is a journey, not a destination, and in this journey the unfinished stories are just as important as the ones that are solved. So as we rest tonight, let us take solace in the unfinished. Let us allow the mysteries to linger, to drift in the quiet spaces of our minds. We don't need to solve them. We simply need to appreciate the beauty of their existence and the way they invite us to look deeper into the past. Time has a quiet strength. It does not shout or demand attention, but it moves forward with an undeniable force. It is the force that carries us through life, shaping us with every passing moment. And while we may not always notice it, time is always working, always shifting the landscape around us. The stories we've explored tonight, the slow march of history, the mysteries that remain unsolved, the quiet lives that have shaped the world, are all part of this force. Time has moved forward, carrying these stories with it, and in doing so, time has given them strength. As we rest here tonight, let us reflect on this strength. Time is a quiet force, but it is also a constant one. It is always moving, always shaping, always influencing the way we live. And just like the stories of the past, we too are part of this movement. We are part of the ongoing story of time, and we will continue to move forward step by step, just as those who came before us did. Time does not stop, it does not pause, it simply moves, carrying us along with it. And in this movement we find strength, the strength to face the future, the strength to embrace the unknown, the strength to live quietly and steadily through the rhythms of life. As we come closer to the end of our journey tonight, let us find peace in acceptance. We have explored many stories, some unresolved, some unfinished, but in each of them we have found something meaningful. Even in the quiet, in the unanswered questions, we have found a sense of connection, a sense of understanding. Tonight we do not need to solve the mysteries of the past. We do not need to find the answers. We simply need to accept them as they are, quiet, unfinished, and full of meaning. The past is not something we can change, but it is something we can learn from. And tonight, as we rest, we have the opportunity to accept it, to embrace it, and to find peace in its quiet presence. And so, as the night deepens and the quiet surrounds us, let us close our eyes and rest in the peace of the past. The stories we've explored tonight will always be with us, gently lingering in our minds, but for now we let them drift away like soft whispers carried on the wind. Sleep well, dear listener. The past will be here when you return, quietly waiting just as we are. As we settle deeper into the night, let us ponder the weight of quiet moments. It's easy to overlook them in the hustle and bustle of life, but these moments are the essence of time. It's in these gentle pauses between events, the moments of stillness that fill the gaps between action, that we often find the most profound truths. History is filled with these pauses, those spaces where nothing seems to happen but everything is changing. Tonight we ventured through moments of mystery, of unsolved questions, of lives lost and forgotten. But even in these pauses, there's meaning. When we look at the history we've explored, we realize that it's not the answers that matter most. It's the questions, the stillness, the way we reflect on the past. These quiet moments in history are the ones that linger with us, that echo in our minds long after the story has ended. As we rest tonight, let's embrace these quiet moments. Let the stillness of the past surround us, filling the spaces between the stories. There is no rush. We do not need to rush toward resolution or answers. We are simply here to observe, to feel, to rest in the quiet of history's pause. Memory, like time, moves quietly. It doesn't demand attention, but it lingers, gently weaving itself into the fabric of our thoughts. As we rest here tonight, we begin to realize how much of history is made up of memories, some forgotten, some cherished, some elusive. The past we've explored tonight, with its quiet mysteries and unresolved questions, is really just a collection of memories. These memories, like shadows, stretch across the landscape of time, reaching out to touch us. The mystery of Elma Sands, the stillness of Johnny Ringo's death, the quiet tragedy in the Borden house, these moments are memories too. They are memories held by the people who lived them, by the towns and streets that witnessed them, and by the world that continues to move forward, quietly carrying these memories in the shadows. We may never fully understand them, but they remain with us. In the same way our own memories shape who we are. Let's take a moment to consider how these memories shape us. How do the stories of the past influence the way we live today? How do they shape the decisions we make, the relationships we form, the way we see the world? The past is not something distant. It is alive within us, in the memories we carry, in the shadows of history that continue to shape us. Every story has a legacy, even those that are forgotten or left unfinished. The forgotten stories, the ones that have slipped through the cracks of history, still leave their mark. They shape the world in ways that are often invisible but no less real. These are the stories that make up the backdrop of history, the lives lived in the quiet spaces, the moments that seem unimportant but are part of a larger, unseen legacy. Tonight we've encountered some of these forgotten stories: Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, the Greenbrier Ghost. These stories, though small in the grand narrative, are no less significant. They are part of the larger web of history, connecting the past to the present, leaving behind the legacy that continues to ripple through time. Though they may not be remembered by everyone, they have shaped the world in ways we cannot always see. And so, as we rest tonight, let us reflect on the unseen legacy of these forgotten stories. Let us appreciate their quiet, lasting influence. These stories, though unnoticed, continue to shape the world we live in. And in this, there is beauty. There is power in the forgotten, the overlooked, and the unsolved. These stories, like silent whispers in the dark, carry with them the weight of time, and they remind us that history is not always written in bold strokes. Sometimes it is written in the softest, most unnoticed moments. Time, like a tapestry, unravels slowly. Each moment, each decision, each action contributes to the unraveling, moving us forward in ways we don't always notice. There is a quiet beauty in this slow process, in the way time unfolds without urgency, without the need for haste. History too unravels at its own pace. We often look at history as something that has already been written, something fixed and complete. But the truth is, history is always unraveling, always in the process of becoming. It is a living, breathing thing. As we drift through these quiet moments tonight, we are part of this slow unraveling. We are connected to the past, to the stories we've explored, but we are also part of the future. Just as the people of the past shaped the world we live in, so too will we shape the world for those who come after us. The threads of history continue to unravel, and we, in our own quiet way, are adding to the story. Tonight, let us reflect on our part in this process. We may not see the full picture, and we may never understand all the mysteries, but we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We are part of the ongoing unraveling of time, contributing our own threads to the tapestry. Seyan, inait it is the people we've met tonight, Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, are in their own way symbols of resilience. Their stories may not have clear resolutions, and they may never be fully understood, but they have endured. These forgotten figures, whose lives were lived in the shadows of larger events, continue to have an impact on the world. Their stories, though quietly untold, still shape the way we think, the way we understand history, and the way we relate to the past. History has a way of remembering the forgotten, the quiet figures who seem insignificant at first often have the most lasting impact. They remind us that resilience is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is the quiet persistence of the unnoticed, the ability to endure even when the world has moved on, that leaves the deepest mark. As we rest tonight, let us take comfort in this quiet resilience. We too have the strength to endure, to leave our mark, even if we are not always seen. Like those who came before us, we are part of the ongoing story. We too are part of the quiet resilience that shapes history, even in ways we may never fully understand. History unfolds slowly, quietly, like the turning of pages in a forgotten book. Each page, each chapter is part of a larger story, but we can't always see the connections. We look at the past, at the quiet moments and unsolved mysteries, and we see them as isolated events. But when we step back, when we look at the larger picture, we see how they fit together. The stories we've explored tonight are all part of this unfolding. They are chapters in the larger book of history, chapters that we can't fully understand yet, but that will one day come together to reveal the greater story. History is not a finished work. It is an ongoing process, and each moment, each mystery, each unsolved question is part of that unfolding. As we rest tonight, let us think of history as a book that is still being written. We are all part of the story, contributing our own chapters, our own moments. The past, the present, and the future are all interconnected, and each of us plays a role in the ongoing narrative. Tonight, as we find ourselves lying here in the quiet of the night, we are surrounded by the soft embrace of history. The past, with its mysteries, its unanswered questions, and its quiet moments, wraps around us like a blanket. We are part of it, and it is part of us. History is not something separate, something distant. It is something we live with every day. The stories of those who came before us, the moments they lived, the choices they made. They are woven into the very fabric of our lives. We carry them with us whether we realize it or not. Let us rest now in the gentle embrace of history. Let the quiet moments of the past surround us, filling us with a sense of peace, of connection, and of understanding. We are not alone. We are part of something much larger, something that has been unfolding for centuries and will continue to unfold for generations to come as we continue our journey through the silent corridors of history. Let us think for a moment about the unseen journey of time. We move forward with each passing moment, unaware of how our actions are shaping the future. Just as the stories we've explored tonight have shaped the world in ways we cannot fully comprehend, so too will our own lives, our own choices become part of the ongoing flow of time. Imagine time as a river that flows endlessly, winding through the landscape of history. Every action, every moment is a droplet of water that joins the current. These droplets may seem small and insignificant on their own, but together they form the river that carries us forward. The past is the water that has already flowed. The future is the water yet to come, and we are the droplets that fill the river now, moving with the current of time. As we rest tonight, let's reflect on our own place in this river. We may not always see the impact of our actions, but they are part of something much larger. We are part of the journey of time, contributing to the ongoing flow that shapes the world for generations to come. Just as the droplets form the river, so too do our moments form history. There is a rhythm to reflection, much like the rhythm of time itself. It moves slowly, gently, without urgency. Reflection is not a quick or forceful process. It is something that happens in the quiet spaces of our minds when we allow ourselves to pause and think. It's in these quiet pauses that we find meaning in the events of the past and the choices of the present. Tonight, as we have walked through the stories of Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, we have witnessed reflection in its purest form. We've looked at the mysteries, the uncertainties, and the unresolved questions, and we've allowed them to unfold in their own time. There is no need to rush to conclusions, no need to force answers. The beauty of reflection is that it gives us the space to simply be, to let the questions drift through our minds without the pressure of finding solutions. Take a moment now, as you lie here in the quiet, to reflect on the stories we've shared tonight. What thoughts come to your mind? What emotions are stirred within you? Let them come and go without judgment. Reflection is not about finding answers, it's about allowing the mind to wander, to explore, and to find peace in the unknown. As we rest tonight, we find solace in the quiet beauty of forgotten lives. The people we've encountered, Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, are often overlooked by the grand narrative of history. Their stories are small, sometimes forgotten, and yet they are no less important. These are the lives that fill the gaps between the grand events, the ones that seem insignificant but are woven into the larger story of humanity. In a world that often focuses on fame, success, and drama, it is easy to overlook the quieter lives, but it is in these quiet lives that we find the true essence of history. The small moments, the daily routines, the simple acts of living, they are what shape the world in ways we cannot always see. It is in these forgotten lives that we find the heartbeat of history, the pulse that keeps the world moving. As we rest tonight, let's remember that even the forgotten lives have meaning. The quiet moments of history are just as important as the loud ones. And though the stories we've explored tonight may seem small, they are part of the larger tapestry of time. We too are part of this tapestry. Our lives, though quiet and often unnoticed, are just as significant as the lives of those who have come before us. There is a quiet power in unanswered questions. In a world that constantly seeks answers, we often forget the strength of the questions themselves. History is full of unanswered questions, mysteries that may never be solved, events that may never be fully understood. But these questions have a power all their own. They challenge us to think, to reflect, to imagine. The stories we've explored tonight, the mystery of Elma Sand's death, the silence surrounding Johnny Ringo, the strange events in the Borden house, and the eerie revelations of the Greenbrier Ghost are all filled with unanswered questions. And though we may never find the answers, there is something deeply meaningful in the act of asking. Unanswered questions keep the past alive. They keep us engaged, thinking, wondering, and in the wonder we find connection. The unanswered questions of history remind us that there is always more to discover, always more to explore. They keep the door to the past open, allowing us to step into the mystery, to walk through the unknown, and to experience history in a deeper way. Memory is a quiet thing. It is not loud or forceful, but it is ever present, like the soft murmur of a stream flowing in the distance. Memory shapes the way we see the world, the way we understand ourselves and the past. It is through memory that we connect with those who came before us, that we carry their stories with us. Tonight, as we reflect on the quiet stories of history, we are also creating memories of our own. The past, with all its mysteries and questions, will remain in our minds long after the night is over. The stories we've explored will become part of our own memory, and in that memory, they will continue to live. Time moves forward, but memory holds the past in a gentle embrace, allowing it to continue influencing our lives. As we rest tonight, let's allow these memories to settle within us. We don't need to force them to stay or try to remember every detail. Memory is gentle. It comes and goes as it pleases, and it leaves its mark on us without us even realizing it. Let the stories of tonight, of the past, of the forgotten lives, yes, of the unanswered questions become part of the memory of this moment. Let them fade gently into the background, knowing that they are still with us, quietly shaping the way we see the world. Understanding comes slowly. It is not something that can be rushed or forced. The stories of the past, the mysteries, the struggles, the quiet lives are not easily understood in a single moment. It takes time to process, to reflect, and to absorb the full meaning of these stories. And tonight, as we rest, we are in the midst of that slow unfolding of understanding. The stories we've encountered tonight may not have clear resolutions, but they still offer us something valuable. They invite us to think, to question, and to reflect, and through this process of reflection we begin to understand. Understanding is not about finding all the answers, it's about allowing the questions to shape our thoughts, to help us see the world in a different way. So, let us rest tonight with the knowledge that understanding comes in its own time. There is no need to rush. We don't need to have all the answers. We simply need to allow the stories of the past to unfold within us, slowly and gently, like the turning of pages in a book. History is not just something we look back on. It is something we live. The stories of the past are not distant, separate events. They are part of us. They shape the world we live in today, just as the choices we make today will shape the future. History is a continuous thread stretching across time, connecting the past to the present and the future. As we rest tonight, let's remember that we are part of this continuous story. We are part of the thread of history, contributing our own moments, our own choices, our own lives to the tapestry. The past, the present, and the future are all interconnected, and we are an integral part of that connection. So as we lie here tonight, let the quiet flow of history surround us. Let the past, with all its mysteries and stories, rest gently in our minds. We are not separate from it. We are part of it, and it is part of us. Finally, let us find peace in the unresolved. We often think that the resolution of a story is the most important part, but sometimes it is in the unresolved that we find the deepest peace. The stories we've shared tonight, stories full of mystery, uncertainty, and unanswered questions, offer us a unique kind of comfort. They remind us that not everything needs to be resolved, not everything needs to be explained. Tonight, as we rest, let's embrace the peace of the unresolved. The mysteries of the past don't need to be solved. We don't need to know all the answers. Sometimes simply being with the unknown, allowing it to sit quietly with us, is enough. As we move further into the night, let's think about the quiet persistence of history. Time may flow like a river, but history itself is not always about grand movements or dramatic moments. It is instead made up of the smallest moments, the ones that seem insignificant at the time but become the foundation of the world we live in. Tonight, we've explored the forgotten corners of history, the unsolved mysteries, the quiet lives that have shaped the world in ways we may never fully understand. These moments are part of a larger, slow-moving current that carries history forward piece by piece, question by question, and in this gentle, persistent flow of time, we find meaning. Let us pause for a moment to reflect on how these small moments add up. History is not something that is made in an instant. It is the result of millions of quiet decisions, countless ordinary lives, and an endless series of seemingly unimportant events. The stories we've encountered tonight, though they may seem small and their answers elusive, are woven into this larger fabric of time, shaping the world without fanfare, without recognition. As we rest here tonight, let's embrace the quiet persistence of history. It moves forward not with urgency, but with patience, slowly building the world one small moment at a time. Have you ever noticed how history seems to repeat itself, though not in the same way or at the same speed? The stories of the past are always with us, not as things we need to solve or learn about, but as gentle reminders. The events we explore, the lives we reflect on, don't just fade away. They remain in the quiet spaces of time, offering us a sense of continuity and connection. Tonight, as we reflect on the lives of Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost, we notice that we are connected to them in ways we may not always understand. These moments, though they occurred long ago, continue to shape the world we live in today. Their unresolved mysteries, their forgotten struggles, their quiet existences, these all echo through the present, linking us to the past. We are part of this ongoing narrative, this timeless connection between the past and the present. The choices we make today, though they may seem insignificant, will one day become part of someone else's history. And just as we remember those who came before us, so too will future generations remember us. We are all connected through time, linked by the quiet threads of history. So as we rest tonight, let's appreciate this unspoken connection between the past and present. We are part of something much larger than ourselves, and though we may not always see it, our place in this web of history is just as important as those who came before us. There is something uniquely peaceful about uncertainty. We often think of it as something to be avoided, something to fear. But uncertainty is a natural part of life, and it's also a gentle part of history. The mysteries we've explored tonight, the unsolved deaths, the unanswered questions, are filled with uncertainty. But in that uncertainty, there is peace. When we look at history, we often feel the need to have answers. We want closure, we want resolution. But sometimes history is not about resolving everything. Sometimes it's about sitting with the questions, the uncertainties, and letting them be. In the case of Elma Sands, we may never know the full truth of what happened that night. We can speculate, we can reflect, but we cannot change the past. And that's okay. The peace comes in accepting that some things are beyond our understanding, beyond our control. It's the same with Johnny Ringo's death, Lizzie Borden's trial, and the Greenbrier Ghost's haunting. We may never know exactly what happened, and that's okay. In fact, there is beauty in that uncertainty. It leaves space for reflection, for wonder, and for quiet contemplation. As we rest tonight, let's embrace this uncertainty. Let it be a gentle companion, a reminder that not everything needs to be understood. Some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, and in that, there is peace. Reflection is a soft, slow process. It doesn't demand anything from us, and it doesn't rush. It simply happens in its own time. When we reflect, we are not looking for answers or resolutions. We are simply being present with what has come before us, acknowledging the past and allowing it to settle within us. Tonight, as we rest in the quiet, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned from the stories we've shared. What do these mysteries, these unsolved histories, teach us about the nature of time, the nature of life, and the nature of the world we live in? Perhaps it's not about finding the answers. Perhaps it's about simply being with the questions, letting them sit with us, and allowing them to shift our perspective. Reflection is not an active pursuit, it is passive and gentle. It is like the calm ripples in a pond, moving slowly, quietly, and without force. Let this process of reflection fill the quiet moments of your mind tonight. Let it be a peaceful, relaxing presence as you drift into sleep. In the quiet of history, there are lessons to be learned, though they are not always spoken aloud. The events we explore, the unsolved mysteries, the forgotten lives, the unanswered questions, carry with them quiet lessons. These lessons may not be obvious and they may not be easy to see, but they are there, waiting for us to uncover them. The mystery of Elma Sand's death teaches us about the fragility of life, the uncertainty that can accompany even the simplest of moments. The death of Johnny Ringo reminds us of the harshness of the world and the silence that can follow a life lived on the edge. Lizzie Borden's trial, though filled with confusion, asks us to consider the ways in which society judges and the boundaries of justice. And the story of the Greenbrier Ghost offers us a glimpse into the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding, in the space between the living and the dead. These lessons are not loud or dramatic. They are subtle, quiet, and soft, but they are there, and they linger in the stories of the past, waiting for us to listen. As we rest tonight, let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons history has to offer. These lessons are not always easy, but they are part of the ongoing narrative of our lives. We may not fully understand them now, but in time we will come to see their value. Time has a quiet strength. It does not rush or hurry, but it moves forward, constantly unfolding, constantly changing. The past we've explored tonight is not something fixed. It is part of the ongoing flow of time, constantly moving, constantly evolving. And just as time shapes the past, it also shapes the present and the future. As we rest tonight, let's reflect on this quiet strength of time. It is not something we can control, but something we can experience. Time moves forward, carrying us with it, whether we are ready or not. But we don't need to fear it. Time is a gentle force, one that shapes us without force, one that leads us forward without pushing us. Let's take comfort in the strength of time, knowing that it is always there, quietly shaping the world, quietly shaping us. Time will continue to move forward, and we will continue to move with it step by step, quietly and steadily, like the river that flows without end. The stories we've shared tonight are not finished. They are ongoing, unfolding, just as our own lives are. We may not have all the answers, but we are part of the larger story. History is not a static thing. It is constantly unfolding, constantly changing, constantly moving forward, and we too are part of this unfolding story. As we lie here tonight, let's reflect on the way stories unfold. Sometimes we are in the middle of a story and we can't see the ending. Sometimes the answers are not clear. But that's okay. The beauty of a story is in the journey, not the destination. It's in the questions, the mysteries, the quiet moments, and the unfolding process that makes it meaningful. Tonight, let's embrace the unfolding nature of the story. We don't need to know all the answers. We don't need to rush to the end. We simply need to be present, to let the story unfold in its own time, gently and quietly. And so, as the night deepens and the quiet surrounds us, we come to the end of our journey tonight. The stories of the past will remain with us, softly echoing in our minds, and we can return to them whenever we wish. But for now, let us let them fade into the background gently, quietly. We are part of the ongoing flow of time, part of the unfolding story of history. And as we rest tonight, we can take comfort in the fact that we are connected to something much larger than ourselves. The quiet moments of the past, the unanswered questions, the forgotten lives, they are all part of the larger journey, and we are moving through it together. Good night, dear listener. Sleep well, knowing that the quiet of history surrounds you and that you are part of this never-ending journey. The past will always be here waiting for you to return when you are ready. Good night. As we move deeper into the night, let us think of time not as something rigid, but as something soft, something fluid. Time is like water, flowing endlessly, moving through us and around us. It doesn't demand attention, it simply flows, carrying us with it. And in this gentle passage of time there is peace. There is no need to rush, no need to hurry. Time unfolds at its own pace, and we are part of that unfolding. Tonight, as we reflect on the quiet moments of history, the lives lived in silence, the stories left untold, we can see how time moves forward without urgency. The past, present, and future are all part of this soft flowing river of time. We cannot control its course, but we can choose how we move through it. And tonight, as we rest, let us allow time to carry us gently into sleep. In the space between us and the past, there is a silence. It is not an empty silence, but one filled with meaning. This silence is the distance between the stories we know and the stories we don't. It is the space where we can reflect, where we can allow the mysteries of the past to settle around us. We are not in a hurry to fill this silence. We are simply here to be present with it, to embrace the quiet of history. The stories we've explored tonight, each one filled with its own mysteries, its own questions, are part of this silence. The past is not something that can be fully understood or fully explained. It is a space, a gap between what we know and what we don't. And in this space we find peace. There is no need to rush to answers. We can simply rest in the quiet, knowing that the past will always be with us, even in its silence. As we drift into sleep, let this silence surround us. Let it be a comfort, a reminder that not everything needs to be resolved. We are part of the silence, and the silence is part of us. History is not a collection of isolated events. It is a continuous flow, an endless thread weaving through time. The people we've encountered tonight, those whose stories are filled with mystery and uncertainty, are not isolated from the world around them. They are part of the ongoing tapestry of history, contributing to the larger story in ways that are often unseen. As we rest tonight, we are part of this ongoing story. The past is not something distant. It is alive within us, influencing the way we see the world, the way we live our lives. The quiet moments of history, the ones we have explored tonight, are part of this larger continuity. And as we lie here drifting into sleep, we are connected to the past, to the people who came before us, to the moments that have shaped the world. We are part of the continuous flow of history, contributing our own stories to the larger narrative. And just as the past influences us, we will influence the future. The thread of time continues to weave, and we too are part of the fabric. Section 41. The healing power of history's silence. There is a certain healing power in the silence of history. The stories we've explored tonight are not full of drama or resolution. They are stories of questions, of uncertainty, of lives lived in quiet moments. But it is in this silence that we find healing. We do not need to solve every mystery to have every answer. We simply need to accept the quiet of the past, to allow the unanswered questions to remain. The past is full of stories that are incomplete, unfinished, and that is okay. There is healing in the unfinished. There is peace in the unknown. As we rest tonight, let us embrace this healing silence. Let us allow the mysteries of the past to settle gently around us without the need for answers. The past is not something we need to fix. It is something we can simply sit with in quiet acceptance. History, like the night, is full of silence. And it is in this silence that we find comfort, knowing that not everything needs to be resolved. Some things are meant to remain untouched, and that is where the peace lies. Tonight we reflect on the past. We have listened to the stories of Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost. Each of these stories is filled with mystery and unanswered questions. But it is not the answers that matter most. It is the reflection, the quiet contemplation of these stories that allows us to find meaning. Reflection is a gentle process. It is not about finding answers or drawing conclusions. It is about allowing the mind to wander, to explore, to consider. We reflect not to solve the mysteries of the past, but to understand them in a deeper way. Reflection is the space where we can make sense of the world, where we can find peace in the unknown. As we rest tonight, let's embrace this quiet reflection. Let the stories of the past drift through our minds, allowing them to settle into the quiet corners of our thoughts. There is no need to force meaning. We simply need to allow the stories to be, to exist in their own space without the need for explanation. And in this reflection, we find peace. The stories we've shared tonight are not ours to keep. They are part of the larger tapestry of history, stories that will continue to be told, retold, and remembered. But we don't need to hold on to them. The stories will continue on, passing from one listener to the next, carrying their mysteries and their lessons forward. Just as the stories of the past have been passed down through generations, so too will our stories be passed on. The quiet moments of our lives, the choices we make, the mysteries we leave behind, they will become part of the ongoing flow of history. And just as we rest tonight, knowing that the past continues to live within us, we can also rest knowing that our own stories will continue to live on in the quiet corners of the future. Tonight, we've explored the quiet mysteries of history, the unanswered questions, and the forgotten lives. And as we reflect on these stories, let us find peace in acceptance. Not everything can be known, not every mystery can be solved, and that is okay. The peace comes in accepting the unknown, in letting go of the need for answers, and simply allowing the past to be what it is. The stories of Elma Sands, Johnny Ringo, Lizzie Borden, and the Greenbrier Ghost will remain with us, not because we have the answers, but because we have accepted them as part of the larger flow of history. The mysteries of the past are not obstacles, but invitations to reflect, to wonder, and to appreciate the quiet beauty of the unknown. So as we rest tonight, let us accept the silence of history. Let us embrace the peace that comes from knowing that we don't need to solve everything. Sometimes the beauty lies in the questions, in the quiet moments of uncertainty, and in this we find peace. As we near the end of our journey through time tonight, let us find comfort in quiet reflection. The stories we've explored, though filled with mystery, are also filled with meaning. The quiet lives of those who came before us, the mysteries they left behind, have shaped the world we live in today. And as we rest tonight, we can take comfort in knowing that these stories are part of us. History is not just about what happened. It is about how we remember it, how we reflect on it, and how we connect with it. The past is not a series of events. It is a collection of moments that continue to shape the world around us. And tonight we are part of that ongoing journey, quietly reflecting on the stories that have come before us. Good night, dear listener. The stories we've shared tonight will remain with us, quietly echoing in the corners of our minds. The past is never truly gone. It lives on in the quiet moments, in the mysteries, and in the stories that continue to be told. Let these stories rest gently in your thoughts as you drift into sleep. The past, with all its questions and answers, will be here when you wake. And as you sleep, let the peace of history embrace you, knowing that not everything needs to be solved. Some things are meant to remain in the quiet of time.